Good day and welcome to another edition of the program Critical Lens here on Atlantic TV. My name is Chimobim Zerimolbi. Today on the program we'll be x-raying the provisions of the Violence Against All Persons Law in Delta State, popularly referred to as the VAP law. Over the weekend, the Delta State Police Command put out a message on their official X handle, which talked about indecent exposure of one's private parts, wholly or partially in public. Now, between then and now, there's been a lot of media frenzy regarding the VAP law. While the police has gone ahead to make some clarifications as regarding the VAP law and made it very clear that they don't have the capacity to implement that law or to enforce that law or to arrest citizens when it comes to their dressing. The Ministry of Justice in Delta State has also come out to clarify that the police are not in a position to enforce that law. But then there are other provisions of the VAP law. The law came into effect in the year 2020. Somehow it's been under the radar. But thanks to the message by the police command, it's now brought to the surface. And Nigerians are beginning to ask this VAP law, what are the provisions? Joining us today to x-ray the provisions of the VAP law 2020 is a human rights activist, Comrade Israel Joe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today. We are going to be explaining a whole lot as concerns and regard the VAP law in Delta State vis-a-vis the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as superior to the VAP law. Thank you for having me today.
All right, let's get down to it. The Violence Against All Persons Law 2020 is not new, but all of a sudden there's a lot of interest when it comes to this law. And I would like us to look at the provisions of the VAP law and why is it special? Why has it suddenly garnered a lot of attention?
The VAP law has garnered a whole lot of attention because of the trigger that the State Command PPR of the Nigerian police gave to it on a misleading tweet some days ago as regards indecent dressing. Now, whether we have the pidgin version of the law and the English version of the VAP law, it is important to state that the business in Nigeria officially is conducted in English language. So the trigger given to it by the state PPR of the Nigerian Police Force Delta State Command has garnered a whole lot of attention, drawing attention to the VAP law, which is of course vague and absolutely ambiguous when it comes to indecent exposure. So I think that the police, when such laws are bring to fore, a lot of them want to take advantage of these laws, not to correct, but to extort, allegedly. And that's what they have been doing since that post was made. Although the police command in Delta State has, in one way or the other, made a retract on that post, deleted the post. Even the Ministry of Justice has also come out to state the role of the police as not having the capability of enforcing such a law because it cannot be the nominal complainant in that particular law. I think some police officers, some police on the road are still using this as an avenue to extort a whole lot of Deltans that are ignorant of the fact that there is a retraction on that particular post.
Well, indeed, there's a retraction when it comes to that post. And the Delta State Ministry of Justice has made it very, very clear that the police do not have the power to enforce that law at this point in time. But let's move away from that particular post, which obviously now has been deleted by the police, and talk about the provisions of the VAP law. There are lots of provisions in the VAP law that could be beneficial to Deltans. Walk us through some of those provisions.
Of course, a lot of provisions in that law. That law takes care of criminality, some persons that might have been. It takes care of widows that you know there are some certain religious and traditional a custom that dehumanize widows, taking them through degrading treatment and a whole lot of that. The law takes care of it. That no tradition, no custom whatsoever should put into danger the liberty of the human person, which is, of course, reflected in our constitution as a fundamental right. There is another provision in the VAP law, section 19, that takes care of family, a family. No, family is the smallest unit in our society. So that provision in section 19 states that a man or a woman, nobody should like evict his or her wife or children from the house without provision for those that he's supposed to provide for his wife and his children, section 19. And section 13 also talks about forcefully evicting your partner from the house. You know, a lot of men can just come up and throw your things outside and leave my house, I don't want to marry again or something. No. Section 13 goes against that.
Let's go back and take it one after the other.
Section 19 goes against you not being able to provide for your wife and children.
Now, okay, let's go back and take it one after the other. So, the section that talks about forcefully evicting your partner.
Section 13.
Section 13.
13 of the VAP law.
Let's try to x-ray it here. This particular section definitely is one that touches on a prevalent practice. It has been a norm in our society over the years. What are the provisions of that law? Are you trying to say that if my partner does something that is really, or a man's partner does something that really, really gets them angry and then they get back, or assuming that there is an irreconcilable difference, or the woman commits an act that is deemed a taboo, that is deemed to be, well, quote unquote, unforgivable, the man cannot evict his wife from the house.
There are enough customary provision for you to call your family that this is what the woman has done. The family would therefore go ahead to tell the woman that you have to leave the house first. That's separation. You can also file divorce in court, that this is for so and so reasons, citing what the woman has done, that you want to carry out a divorce, which the court would grant if the reason is sufficient enough after a 2-year separation of, not making love with your wife, a whole lot of things.
Wait.
But you cannot forcefully evict her, like pushing her away from the house. It amounts to 3 years imprisonment.
Wait. She has committed the act. We are obviously, the man and the woman obviously are not on the same page.
Yes.
And you are saying the law provides that the man gets to stay with the woman while going through all of the legal processes.
No, forcefully evict.
What is the difference? If I
evict.
Forcefully evict
so you
means,
can evict without being forceful. That's what it means. You
cannot wake up and throw her bag outside.
No, you cannot just wake up and throw out her bag.
So you have to beg her to indirectly.
The family can summon.
No. If assuming before the family steps in, yeah. So you mean that you literally have to beg her to leave the house? Because
no, you don't need to beg her to leave the house. When you are going for a marriage right or something, you pay the bride price to the family. You have to summon the family that this is what she has done. I want that the family will invite her to okay, you stay out of the house while we try to resolve this. If it's not an irreconcilable difference, then you sue for divorce. While you are separated after 2 years of separation and of course other things, you can sue for divorce. But forcefully evicting her out of the house, the VAP law section 13 is against it. And also, the people have right to the dignity of the human person. Section 34 of the Nigerian Constitution, fundamental right, and of course Section 35, the liberty, personal liberty, also reflected in Section 14 of the VAP law, the liberty of the human person. So you don't have to degrade her. You don't have to forcefully evict her. Even there's a section, I think I'm not getting it now, that a landlord cannot forcefully evict the tenant by throwing away the things from the house and, or removing the roof as we have seen lately, or cutting away the water, cutting away. So the VAP law has really helped us to tackle a lot of little issues that may degenerate into certain criminal offenses, either from male or female. That's why it's violence against persons law. That's the verb. Violence against person. So the verb law takes a whole lot of a whole lot of these things.
Well, I'm sure that we are beginning to learn, because the VAP law has been in existence since 2020. Well, thanks to that tweet by the police officers, it's now a very popular thing, and it's important that we get to learn some of the provisions. We go on a very short break. When we come back, we'll talk about the part that demands responsibility from the man, responsibility from the woman. I mean, you need to be responsible for your family. The era where you wake up and just decide not to drop money for feeding, you just have to watch it. Join us after the break.
Atlantic TV, culturally inclined and uniquely different.
All right, welcome back from that break. We're still here in the studio with our comrade Israel Joe, a human rights activist. We now turn our attention to Section 19 of the VAP law, which pretty much focuses on responsibility towards your family. Comrade Israel Joe, this section is one that is touching on a very important issue: responsibility towards one's family. Walk us through this particular part.
Now, in our society, we have a whole lot of irresponsible male and female, men and women that do not, in all sense of responsibility, make provision for their children. We see a whole lot of, like we have said, the family is the smallest unit of society. When the children are not well taken care of, they constitute thugs and tards, political. Of course, that law also talks about politically exposed person, violence in election and all of that. But that section, I think, focuses on you not being able to provide for your partner, your children, or your dependent. It's not a crime. It's a criminal offense that you can be charged with the VAP law. So if you are a man out there and you do not provide for your wife and children, abandoning them. That's what the law states. You can't abandon your wife and children and not provide for them, thereby constituting nuisance in society. It's a thing of the past. So we are bringing this to fore for people to be able to understand that there is a provision of the law that takes care of abandoning your responsibility as a family man or woman. A woman cannot just wake up and abandon the home, just go somewhere and leave the children. The VAP law takes care of that. You can't do that. You are either going to face the punishment or you are going to face a fine, punishable under the same section.
So let's look at it also from an angle where the man is economically disadvantaged. Does the law also give any provision to protect such an individual?
The fact remains that the economic disadvantage of the man would not incapacitate him from taking care of his family. Of course, economic disadvantage is in the spree in the whole of the Nigeria society. Everyone is facing one or two economic downturn. Section 14, 2B of the 1999 Constitution as amended, Federal Republic of Nigeria, states that the security and welfare of the people is the primary purpose of government. But it is a fact there that that section is not justiciable. According to the law, is not justiciable. So people know how they go about their economic life. It's not that they must demand a car, they must demand to eat the geisha, the sardine and the indomie. But at your level, you should be able to be responsive to your family. You should be able to take care of the needs of your family. That's what that law is talking about.
When you even say family, are we talking about extended
No,
family?
I'm talking about your nuclear family. The man, the woman, and the children. And of course, the law is extended to your dependent. But depending on who you are calling your dependent, it's only the court that can define who the dependent is or not. But as for your immediate family, you should be able to take care of them. Irresponsibility to your family is a crime in Section 19 of the VAP law.
Irresponsibility to your family is a crime, according to the VAP law. So I hope that we are beginning to learn some of these laws. And for individuals who are a little bit in a relationship or some sort of partnership that is not, that someone is not being responsible. Now you know that you have options. The law is indeed has been set up to take care of you. It's very, very important that we all understand the law. We'll go on another short break. When we come back, we'll look at another section of the law that you also need to learn. Join us after this break.
Don't miss out on exciting news, events, and more. Stay connected by following us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Atlantic Media and TV.
All right, welcome back from that break. We now talk about Section 25 of the VAP law, which focuses on administering substance that could potentially harm somebody or weaken somebody's ability to reason or to react to some action. Comrade Israel Joe, this is one area that people comfortably deal with. We're pretty much is talking about more of a drug abuse and other substances, but let's look at it this way. Over the years, we have seen scenarios where even young people, minors, engage in applying substance into the drink or food of somebody to weaken them. In some cases, it's called poisoning. What is the provision of the VAP law in this regard?
This thing has been going on for a long period, where people teach their fellow how to smoke, hard substance, induce them, put substance in their food or drink in order for them to maybe have sexual or carnal knowledge with them, and a whole lot. The VAP law in Section 25 is clear. When you are caught doing that, and in the court proceedings, it was proven beyond reasonable doubt that you carried out such an act, the provision of the law is that you are going to be imprisoned for either 10 years or you are going to pay a fine of 500,000 naira or both. So the VAP law takes care of you trying to induce someone else to take advantage of them with any kind of substance, whether a poisonous substance, drugs, or a substance as the VAP law has projected in that particular section. So you are having a 10 years jail term or 500,000 naira as a fine or both at the discretion of the courts.
Well, it makes us also ask this question. How then, with these laws now in place, as a right activist, how do people start using this law to protect themselves from individuals who abuse them? We have laws in Nigeria, but obviously there are concerns about people being able to access the law or to get the law to function for them.
That is where we come to the police. The police has a lot to do, because when these crimes are reported, because they are criminal offense, as the VAP law, the VAP law, what I contained, the provisions contained in the VAP law, they are criminal offenses. So it's to report to the police. The police should be able to do due diligence in terms of tackling that, even when a policeman is in a scene and is in a scene where an offense is being committed. It's the VAP law also takes care of it, that you are supposed to attend to that matter, even provide transport fare for the victim to ensure that the victim is safe. So when these things take place, people don't know their right and they are ignorant of their right. That's why they don't get justice. Report to the appropriate authority and the needful would be done as seen in the VAP law and the laws, extant laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Well, in a scenario where people approach the police and somehow it appears that the police on their own part are unable to or are reluctant, maybe because of the individual involved. They say a big man talks to big man, and sometimes the small man doesn't get the chance to be able to handle certain issues. How do people proceed? What options do they have?
The era of bigmanity in Nigeria is almost expiring because we have the internet where people go out there and without prejudice to cyber stacking laws or laws that or offenses that impugns on the image of anybody or maybe cyber defamation or so. People go out there to create an outcry. The police has no other choice than to respond. And of course, there are also control numbers that are there, like I said, because people are ignorant of this law. If you call the control number of the police that this is what you are going through and you have reported to a particular division or an area command and they are not taking steps about it, of course, they will do the needful. So you can always review upward. If the police station you go, they are trying to trouble you in terms of extorting you or something, you can always call on the authorities. And of course, they would respond because anything anybody be for their pocket, as far as Nigeria has moved to this century of the internet. The world is a global village and the internet is the headquarters. So gone are those days where big man talk to big man and you expect that you want to suppress or oppress anyone or trying to suppress the voices of the people. No, we have lived past that. With just a tweet, it can get to the police IG or the presidency, and you see a whole lot of the answers started from Twitter, from the internet. A lot of agitation, the end archive struggle started from the internet. We started doing the end archive struggle before it metamorphosed into a physical, peaceful protest where I was arrested by the military the other time. And of course, the internet provides us a whole lot of avenues to address certain inappropriateness in our society. So we should be able to look at this law so that we are not ignorant of our rights, especially our fundamental right that is contained in Chapter 4, Section 33 to 46 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended.
Indeed, I hope that you've been able to pick up some valuable information as regarding the VAP law in Delta State. You are not handicapped, and that is the major message from today's program. You have options. Try to explore those options to solve some of the difficult challenges that you are dealing with. I want to say thank you so much, Comrade Israel Joe, for joining us today in the studio to x-ray provisions of the VAP law. And with that, we'll come to the end of the program for this week. Join us next week for another edition. My name is Chimo Ben Zaramobi. Bye-bye.